Om Sarvadharma Sthapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakaha Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Ayate Namaha. We are studying Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, second part, that is Sadhak Bhav, and we have to start 17th chapter today. We read the 15th and 16th chapter. 15th was Vedanta Sadhana and 16th was Epilogue of Vedanta Sadhana and Islam Dharma Sadhana. And the chapter ended by telling us how much deep was his memory of Advaita Bhav. And now this chapter heading is the Master's visit to his native village. Note the importance of this chapter, why it has come here. Now he has become firmly established in the Advaita Bhav. So, how with this new vision, he looks at the old people. That is one important thing. Secondly, he was married long back. Now, his wife has grown up, and now is the time of keeping her with him and training her. These may be the two most important points. And then how some of his villagers had gained spiritual height in those days. They may be the topics. So let us read. The master went to Kamarpukur with Hriday and the Bhairavi Brahmani. Now, the immediate cause of going was that though his health was recovering after that dysentery, yet the rainy season was coming and the Ganges water becomes very saline and it may spoil his health again. So, Mathur and his wife Jagdamba Dasi decided better master goes back to his village for the month's rainy season and maybe little more. So he actually stayed there for about 8 months at that time. So that was the immediate cause. So, and who were accompanying him? Hriday, ever accompanying him. And Bhairavi, he had learned Tantra sadhana from Bhairavi. And his other bhav sadhanas also were done in her presence. And he practiced the Advaita also in her presence. So now she has become an inseparable part of Master's life. So she also went with him. The Master suffered for 6 months and then his body was rid of the disease. And his mind became to a great extent habituated to dwell in Bhavamukha. there he stayed. We have seen that. After Vedanta sadhana, he became established in that bhavamukha. Though previously twice he had got the command, but this time his own mind told him, and he was established in bhavamukha. The plane of consciousness consisting of both duality and non-duality, that is how it has been described. That means the world comes out of it. So the perception is duality. But the consciousness inside, once knowledge is gained, does not go. So in the Nirvikalpa Samadhi, he has gained the knowledge that everything is nothing but one reality without a second. So that Advaita Bhava is present. Advaita consciousness is present, but the perception now is again that of duality. So that is the state of Bhavna. But his body was not as strong and healthy as before. He had recovered from the dysentery, and it was feared that his dysentery might recur for want of pure drinking water when the waters of the Ganga become saline during the rainy season. What a tremendous turn over now in the last century. Now, in Belur we have our own water filtration distillation plant, and the purest water is available and plenty in Belur itself. But those were the days when they had to depend upon the Ganges water, and it was saline during rainy season. It was therefore settled that he should go to Kamarpukur, his birthplace, for a few months, that is away from the Ganges. And the climate weather was much healthier in Kamarpukur than in Belur and than in Dakshineshwar. Sorry. This was in 1867. Arrangements were made. The devout Jagdamba Dasi, wife of Mathur Babu, knew that the master's household was ever poor like that of Shiva. Shiva does not keep anything. So his household has nothing, provisions, etc. Somehow they procure day to day and spend it. That is the popular notion or famous about Shiva's house. So like that is Kamarpukur. So she made arrangements with much care about all the necessary articles, so that father, that is how Mathur and Jagdamba both addressed Thakur, that father might not have inconvenience of any kind. The master then started at an auspicious moment. They used to consult all this for everything. So, this going to Kamarpukur was already described in the Guru Bhava Uttarardha, so that mention is there in the footnote. So for some more details, you can refer there. Then the master started at an auspicious moment, and the Bhairavi Brahmani accompanied him. But his aged mother stuck to her previous resolve of living on the Ganga and stayed at Dakshineshwar under Mathur's care. How the master's friends and relatives found him. So they see him, how he sees them. The master had not come to Kamarpukur for the past 8 years. After first 4 years of sadhana, he had gone and married and come back. After that, he had not gone. Therefore, his relatives, it is superfluous to add, were eager to see him. And it needs no mention that there were special reasons for it, for many strange rumors had reached their ears from time to time, namely that he was crying Hari Hari in a woman's dress, that he had become a monk, that he was repeating Allah Allah continually, so on and so forth. So everything, when it goes to a distance, the inner substance is not known. Only the outer things travel, and all were strange. But as soon as the master was in their midst, they all found how baseless were the rumors. That means the facts are there, but the inner spirit has not changed. For they found that he was just his old self. They found he was just his old self, though there was total transformation in him. But he had normalized the Advaita Anubhav. And so, from outside it appeared, he is the same. The same amiability, the same loving merriment, that was his nature. The same austere truthfulness, the same profound religious care, and the same surging of overwhelming feeling at the time of Hari, at the name of Hari. All these old qualities of his were seen in him in the fullest measure as before. The only change they found in him was that his body and mind were glowing with such an indescribable heavenly effulgence. That is the Sattuguna Pradhan or consciousness overpowering. So the body becomes glowing. Heavenly effulgence. That they felt a great hesitation to appear before him suddenly because the inner change was tremendous. Or to broach worldly topics when he did not start them himself. So he is on a higher plane. We cannot talk of the world to him. If he himself condescends to come to our plane, then we can talk. This is the difference. How beautifully Saradan Swamiji has analyzed. Otherwise, he was the same. Again, they all felt that their worldly anxieties disappeared into thin air, so to say, when they were near him. So his influence on them has grown so much that when they were near him, their worldly worries and anxieties go away. Their mind is raised to a higher plane. And that there flowed in their hearts a serene and tranquil current of bliss and peace. In their hearts, by Master's presence. This is the influence of a man of knowledge. What to speak of an incarnation? Serene and tranquil current of bliss and peace. But when they were away from him, they experienced a strong, inexpressible desire to go to him once more. So if they are away, the attraction is there, and they want to go to him once more. These are the changes they pursued. But when they were away from him, they experienced a strong, inexpressible desire to go to him once more. Thus, there was an incessant flow of bliss in that poor family when they had him in their midst. So, that is people now in the family after so long a time. And in order to fill the cup of happiness to the brim, that is how they thought, a messenger was sent under the instruction of the ladies to Jairambati, the village of the master's father-in-law, to bring his wife. So that is what the household people thought, that she has now grown up. The master has come to Dakshineshwar, so she should be brought there. The master knew it, but did not express either approval or disapproval. That is his samabuddhi. But when she comes, he will behave with her most lovingly and teach her and take care of her. It had fallen to the lot of his newly married wife to have seen her husband once only after their marriage. It was when, according to the custom of the family, the master was taken to Jairambati on one occasion when she was 7 years of age. Married at 5 years, so after 2 years, once she had gone. But she was then too young to understand what marriage meant. Therefore, the only thing regarding the event that was retained in her memory was that When the master came to her father's house with Hridaya, the latter brought a good many lotus flowers from somewhere, sought her out from a secluded part of the house where she had hidden herself, and while out of bashfulness she shrank into herself, Hridaya worshipped her feet with those lotus flowers. So this was the memory. 6 years after this event, 2 plus 6, she was taken to Kamarpukur in her 13th year. That is 1 year before Master went there. Huh? This time she spent a month there, but she had not the good fortune to see either the Master or her mother-in-law. So only customarily she was brought there, as both of them were then away at the Dakshineshwar. She came again 6 months later to her father-in-law's house. So some occasions were there in the family and she was brought there, but could not see either of them for the same reason. During her stay of a month and a half, 3 or 4 months, the Holy Mother came to Kamarpukur. 3 or 4 months had already elapsed since her return to her father's house when news came that the master had come and she was to go to Kamarpukur. She had reached her 14th year, 6 or 7 months before. Reached her 14th year, 6 or 7 months before. So she was 13 and a half. Or if 14 are complete, then she is 14 and a half. Therefore, this was practically the first occasion when she met her husband after her marriage, because she was too small to understand marriage and husband, though they had worshipped her. The master's behavior with his relatives and boyhood friends at that time. So first, these will be described, then Holy Mother will be. It seems that the master stayed at Kamarpukur for 6 or 7 months on this occasion. The friends of his early days and all the men and women of the village known to him mixed with him as before and tried to make him happy. The master also was very pleased to see them after such a long time. In mingling with men and women of Kamarpukur in their circumscribed worldly life. Worldly lives are always circumscribed. The master felt at that time a joy similar to that felt by great thinkers and scholars when during their leisure after hard toils they join with children in their aimless and meaningless amusement. Comparison, how to understand for us. Now scholars and thinkers are in their thought world. But after a long time, they spend time with children because children don't have that height of the thinking. But by mixing with children, they find joy because their strain about the high thinking is gone. And so that is the best way of relaxing, by combining with small children. Now similar, but not same. Master had not grown old in that 8 years. Master was not given to thinking. Master's plane of consciousness had totally changed. And the people were not children whom he is meeting, but their state had practically remained the same. So they are children. So the gap of consciousness, height of consciousness is described as thinkers and children. But it may be said without contradiction that he was always anxious that they should become conscious of the transitoriness of this life. So what he has achieved, that he wants to lift people to that level. So first point is that Vivek should enter their lives, that this world is transitory, ephemeral, Shanabhangur. Although living in the world, he is not pulling them out of the world. They may live in the world with the knowledge that this world is Kshanabhangur. So the attitude will totally change. if the world is changing every moment, how we can be attached to that world? We are living in the world. They should gradually attain self-control. So after an attachment comes self-control, because they have to go higher and learn to depend on God. So that is the way in which Saradananda Swamiji is describing what Master wanted from them. They should have Vairagya, Vivek, Shamatama Uprati, and Ishwar Nirbharata. We have seen this Ishwara Nirbharata is not directly mentioned in the Vedantic scriptures, and yet it was described in Thakur's fitness for Vedanta. And because of that, he was Bhayashunya. So now, Ishwara Nirbharata is a main factor of spiritual life. After one has the Vivek, Vairagya and self-control, then one should understand, one should feel, one should realize that it is God's will which functions everywhere in the world, not mine or yours will. That is Ishwar Nirbharata. So what he wills, we shall follow. And learn to depend on God in all matters. So this should be pervading, overwhelming their whole life. Not that when we are sitting for puja, then I am dependent on God. No, the whole life has to transform. We may infer this. How do you know? We may infer this from the manner in which he always taught us. So, the manner in which he taught his disciples. So, from that they infer that he taught the same thing to the people known to him, friends or otherwise. We may infer this from the manner in which he always taught us the very same thing through play and fun, mirth and merriment. That was his method. Not that I am teaching you and you should follow me. That spoils all teaching. Through play and fun. We have read that, if you remember, how Swami Vivekananda is described as how Thakur taught us. Play and fun, mirth and merriment. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you will see plenty. Master is a serious person, that teacher, Ma. He will not describe, he has not described in detail any talk, but only mentions that Master was having fun with the young boys. Master was having mirth and merriment with the young boy. That much he mentions. In Bengali, Pachkimi Kochilen, Foshinashti Kochilen, what were the words he has never mentioned. But Saradananda Swamiji knows it. So, from that we infer. On finding that even living in the little world of the little village, some had made unexpected progress in religious life. It should be spiritual life. Dharma Jivan is all right. But these days, religion does not signify the same thing. So we should say spiritual life. He was struck with wonder at the inconceivable glory of God. He told us many times, often even to illustrate this. So he described this after many years to the disciples. That much strong impression was there in his memory. What the master said about the spiritual progress of some of them. So here spiritual is mentioned. Some of them. Master said that one day during that period, he was resting in his room after his midday meal. Some ladies, his neighbors, came to see him, sat near him, and became engaged in spiritual conversation with him. The master suddenly happened to be in ecstasy and felt that he was a fish, the inner experience. He was a fish, joyfully swimming and sporting, sometimes coming to the surface, sometimes sinking deep, all in the ocean of existence, knowledge, bliss. So, Ananta Samudra. So he is like a fish, going at pleasure to surface, deep, anywhere, within the ocean of bliss. The master happened to be in ecstasy very often while talking with others. Because he is talking and all that, but his mind is always in the Bhavma. So he would suddenly go there. That was his nature. Though he tried to bring it down to our level, the natural instinct like in him was to go above. Therefore, not at all mindful of it, the ladies expressed their own opinions, which created a sort of noise. One of the company forbade the others to do so and asked them to be quiet till his ecstasy came to an end. She said, he has now become a fish and is swimming in the sea of existence, consciousness, bliss. So she gauged this. How much spiritual height should be there to understand Master's mind? And in the same manner, if you make a noise, that bliss of his will be interrupted. That is what she felt. Although many of them did not then believe in her words, all remained quiet. Some people who knew her, they believed also, but all did not believe. When he came down from that state and was asked about his experience, the master said, yes, what she said is true. How strange. How could she know it? And this was deep in his impression, so he described it to the disciples much after. The reason why the people of Kamarpukur appeared wonderfully new to the master. People have grown 8 years in age, biological, mental. But for master, that totally new because master has become new now. It seems to us that the daily rounds of the men and women of the village of Kamarpukur now appeared new to the master to a great extent. It seems to us. He now felt like a man who had returned home from a far off place and to whom every person and object of his village appeared to be new. For although the master had been away from the place of his birth for a short period of 8 years only, a violent storm of spiritual strivings had raged in his heart during that period and produced a radical change in it. So he was not the same person at all. For those 8 years, he had forgotten himself, forgotten the world, forgotten himself, means I is wiped out. Forgotten the world, simultaneously it happens. And ascended far beyond the bounds of time and space. So the time and space also changes and he goes beyond them in Nirvikal Samadhi. But while descending from there, he came transfigured with the knowledge that Brahman existed in all beings. So, transformation of consciousness leads to transfiguration of personality. As salt tried by philosopher's stone become gold. Shape is same, but the inner thing is not same at all. So, knowledge that Brahman existed in all beings and found all persons and things mellowed by an extraordinary new light. His mind is full of light of consciousness. So in that light, when he observes persons, he thinks that they have become mellowed with light. Okay. Mm. but there is no such mention in Bengali. सर्वभूते ब्रह्म दृष्टि संपन्न होया आगमन पूर्वक सकल व्यक्तियों विषय के अपूर्व नवीन भावे देखते पाइया चिले. Because this appeared a little strange to me, mellowed by an extraordinary light. So this is under doubt. Persons अपूर्व नवीन भावे देखते पाइए चिले. In a wonderful new light. He, light is him. In that wonderful new light, he sees them in a different light. So they are not mellowed. And found all persons and things with a vision which was not before. Apurva means it is not before. And apurva bhav. नवीन भावे देखते पाइए चिले. Okay. Brahman is all beings and found all persons and things in a new light not seen before. In a new light not seen before. With a new vision not seen before. It is well known in philosophy that our consciousness of time and the measurement of its duration arise from the succession of our mental functions. So, everybody must have seen this. In sleep, we are not aware of time. In deep meditation, we are not at all aware of time. So, succession of events tells us the time. If so much succession of events, we feel so much time has gone. Though the watch will tell us very little has gone. Therefore, a short period during which a great many thoughts arise and sink in our minds appear to us to be very long. One is astonished to think what tumultuous waves of thoughts and emotions, feelings surge in the master's mind during this period. Is it therefore surprising that the same period should appear to him to be an age? So to master, that 7-8 years was like a yuga, age, because he was totally changed. The master's eternal relation of love with the people of his birthplace. And love is not changing, love is growing rather. One is astonished to think of the wonderful relation of affection in which the master bound up all the people, men and women of Kamarpukur. All the people of Kamarpukur were bound by his love. The men and women of all families, including those of the Lahas, the landlords. They are mentioned, the Brahmins. Lahas are not Brahmins, families of Lahas, Brahmins, blacksmiths, because that Dhani, the Bhiksha Mata was a blacksmith. The carpenters, the gold merchants, he was mixing with the gold merchants in childhood, and so on, were all bound to him in a relation of reverential love. So, Jati Pati Puche Nahi Koi, Harika Bhajaso Harika Hoi. So, caste differences forgotten, minds elevated. He and they become bound to him by reverential love. That means great Shraddha for him and love also, attraction. We were charmed to hear the Master on many occasions speak with great pleasure about the devotion and affection for him of a large number of men and women. So, when he used to describe this to his disciple, they were charmed that simple village people, how they became elevated. For example, the simple-hearted and devout Prasanga, the widowed sister of Dharmadas Lal. So we have seen Prasanna when Thakur was going to that Devi and became unconscious from outside. She said that Devi has entered into him. So that Prasanna had great spiritual evolution. The master's friend Gaya Vishnullah and the Dharmadas Lal was the landlord and his son was master's childhood friend. He felt a reverential love. Srinivas Shankari of sincere faith, he should be specially mentioned. The Shankari will not strike any chord in the English reading people. We should describe it as, in Hindi, you know, chudis with the ladies wear, and there are special persons who manufacture and sell that chudi. So in Hindi it will be chudi wala. Now in the West there is no such tradition. So Shakha is the conch shell found in water, but that is used to make the rings which the ladies wear. And so in Bengali, Shakari means one who dealt with the material of the bangles. In English, the word is bangles. So those who manufacture bangles and sell them are called Shakari. Now this was the first man to understand, other than his father and mother, that Thakur was incarnation, God himself. Others might have felt like the uh, daughters of the goldsmiths or the owner of the goldsmiths family. But this man's simple faith, profession very low, and that man worshipped a Thakur just as we worship God, holding him when he found him alone below a tree. So this is a special mention. Prasanna was spiritual. Gaya Vishnu was his childhood friend. But this Srinivas Shankari. So I hope now you understand Shankari of sincere faith. So the Bengal man, Srinivas. The devout ladies of the Pine family that we have come to know, that Goldsmith's family, Pine family, and the devoted lady that recognized him from childhood. The master's Bhiksha Mata Dhani, that blacksmith woman. Master had promised her, I will take Bhiksha from you, and he used to go and snatch food cooked by her and eat. The blacksmith woman and others. So special mention is made of these four people, four types of people, because the goldsmiths people were many. Prasanna, master's friend Gaya Vishnu, Srinivas, Bengal man, and devout ladies of Pine family, and master's Bhiksha Mata Dhani, the blacksmith, and others. All of them remained at this time almost always beside the master. Those who could not do so on account of household duties or other business used to come in the morning or midday or evening, whenever they had leisure, whenever they had spare time. Leisure is difficult to say, but as soon as they were free from work, they used to rush him. When they came, the ladies brought with them various sweet and delicious dishes and felt delighted in feeding the master. That is what the ladies do. We have given the reader elsewhere an indication of how the master, although living in the family at home and surrounded by the people of the village who behaved so sweetly, always remained divinely inspired. So he was neither living in the home nor in the people, he was living in consciousness. It is therefore needless to repeat it here because he has already described it. The master began to do his duty to his wife. So we have come back to that point now. The master paid attention to the performance of another great duty. Duty, mind you, husband's duty to wife. When he came this time to Kamarpukur, in India, the husbands are always senior, and so it is their duty to teach the wives. At first, the master had been indifferent to his wife's coming to Kamarpukur. When they said she will come, he did not show any interest. But now he was intent on giving her education and training for her well-being. So when she came, he paid attention. That was his nature. Knowing that the master was married, Totapuri, his teacher, who initiated him in sannyas, had said to him at one time, "What does it matter? He only may be regarded as really established in Brahman, whose renunciation, detachment, discrimination, and knowledge remain intact in all respects, in spite of his wife being with him." Tota came to know he is married and he said like that. He alone may be regarded as having really attained the knowledge of Brahman, who can always look equally upon both man and woman as the self. So that is the main point. And can behave accordingly. Others who have the knowledge of difference between man and woman may be sadhakas, but are still far away from the knowledge of Brahman. So this in the Gurva Purvartha, in the second and fourth chapter is there. Why he married was the question there. The above remark of Totapuri came to Master's mind and induced him to test his knowledge, attained by spiritual practices extending over a long period, as well as to look to his wife's well-being. So on one side it will become tested, on the other his duty is there to teach his wife. The success the master attained in it, so much success he attained, the master could never neglect or leave half finished anything he considered to be a duty. The same held good here also. He did not stop at partially educating his girl wife. She was young in age, so he is called girl wife, and depended entirely on him regarding everything of this world and of the other. She knew nobody. She was a holy, pious girl. So she knew her husband only, nothing else. He was from now on especially mindful that she should learn household duties. Household duties, spiritually oriented household duties. Know people's character, then only we can behave properly. Put money to good use, that is the householder's main thing. And above all, surrender her all to God and be an expert in behaving correctly according to place and time and circumstances. So all these matters Thakur is teaching her. The last thing is that in Bengali, যেখানে যেমন সেখানে তেমন, যার সঙ্গে যেমন তার সঙ্গে তেমন, যখন যেমন তখন তেমন. Place, time and circumstances, place, person and circumstances have to be taken into consideration in the outside behavior. Inside, you will love all because all are Brahman. But the behavior should correspond to the time, place and person. And Holy Mother was absolutely perfect in this. And she told, Thakur has taught me this. So Thakur is teaching her now. We have in many other places hinted how far-reaching was the result of that teaching which the Master imparted to her. In that Why Married, it is mentioned that she always worshipped him as God. Placing before her his ideal life of unbroken continence, she knew him. Therefore, suffice it to say that the Holy Mother, as she is called by the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, okay, Mata Thakurani. Therefore, suffice it to say here that the Holy Mother, as she is called by the devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, was happy and continued in all respect to have the Master's pure love, devoid of the slightest tinge of lust. That is real love, pure love, and could offer her lifelong worship to him as her chosen ideal. Yes. And follow his footsteps and mold her life accordingly. So, accepting him as Guru and Ishta and husband, she is following him. The Brahmani apprehension and the change in her attitude on seeing the Master behave thus with his wife. Totapuri had understood the Vedanti, but Brahmani, she thought she is superior and he should not mix with his wife. His devotion will go away, his purity will go away. So it shows that Brahmani herself had not reached the highest. And this doubt came. The Bhairavi Brahmani did not on many occasions understand the Master when he went forward to do his duty to his wife. We have seen that she tried to make the Master give up his resolve of being initiated into sannyasa when he came in contact with Totapuri. For love of God, she thought, would be completely uprooted from the Master's mind if he was so initiated. So she did not understand the glory of Advaita or Nirvikal Samadhi. Some such apprehension took possession of her heart even now. On the other side, this. She, it seems, thought that it would be prejudicial to the Master's continence if he mixed so intimately with his wife. He is beyond all that she did not understand. Though she has seen him sitting on the lap of a naked woman and falling into samadhi. But the Master could not now any more than on the earlier occasion comply with the Master Brahmani's instruction. When she was Guru, he followed her in total. Now he has reached that perfection. She is no more Guru for him. She is just accompanying him as ex-teacher. Comply with the Brahmani's instruction, which greatly wounded her feelings. So this was her feeling that he does not obey me now. He does not listen to my words now. This gave rise to egoism, which was aggravated into pride and vanity. So degrees of egoism. Pride, vanity means blank, vacuous egoism, which now made her often lose faith in the Master. So he is showing the transformation possible in a high person who has not reached the highest. Such people have to take care. We were told by Hridaya that she openly expressed her feelings from time to time. For example, if anyone raised a question before her on any spiritual matter and said that he would ask Sri Ramakrishna and have his opinion on it, she would flare up and say, "What can he say? It is I who have opened his eyes." Or she would scold the women folk of the family for trivial reasons and at times for no reason at all, annoyed because how they are mixing with him. But the master remained calm in spite of such words and oppressive behavior of her. He is not reacting. That will teach her. Reaction will not teach anybody. And did not cease having devotion or paying reverence to her now. So, not accepting her guidance now, but paying reverence or devotion to her now as before. She masters behavior. Instructed by the master, the Holy Mother paid the Brahmani the respect due to her own mother-in-law, because to Thakur she was like mother, and always engaged herself in her service with love and devotion. Holy Mother to Bhairavi. And knowing herself to be an ignorant girl, she did not protest against any of her words or actions. Ignorant girl. Mm, if something strikes, that we refer to Bengali, and fine, Bengali is different. श्रीमती माता ठाकुर ने शाश्वत जाने भक्ति प्रीति सहित सेवा देती এবং তার কোনো কথা বা কারের কখনো প্রতিবাদ করিতেন না। Oh, it has point. Why she is an ignorant girl? Is she an ignorant girl? And never protested against any of her words and actions. Please, please, please remove this sentence, this clause. And always engaged herself in her service with love and devotion, and she did not protest against any of her words or actions. That's all. Knowing herself to be an ignorant girl, no, no, no. She was never an ignorant girl. And why she will know to herself to be an ignorant girl? The question is about Brahmani's life and transformation. Though Thakur is paying reverence to her, he is not following her advice. Holy Mother is paying great reverence and serving her, not protesting at all, but some worm has entered her brain. The Brahmani's power of discrimination was ruined owing to the increase of pride and egoism. Discrimination here, behavioral discrimination, as Thakur taught, place, person and circumstances, that went away. When pride and egoism increase, the intelligence of even a clever man gets clouded. It does not then take long for that pride to get knocks and bumps at every step. When, however, it is knocked about in that way, a man with some sense left in him knows its evil effects, gives it up, and follows the rising curve of his life again. So, both sides. She had defects, but she was highly elevated in spiritual life, so she understood that and tried to rectify that. Such was the case with the learned Brahmani now. Okay, Vidushi. Vidushi is learned. Okay. Vidushi is equivalent to Vidwan, one who knows. So we'll have to find some other words for this. Vidhi, Brahmani with higher knowledge. Such was the case with the Brahmani with higher knowledge now. For unable to behave rightly with preference to persons and circumstances, under the influence of that pride, one day she created an awkward situation. The incident came about thus. The event illustrating this. We have already mentioned Srinivas Shankari. And although not born in a high family, Srinivas was higher than many Brahmins in respect of devotion to God. One day during this period, he came to the master for the purpose of having Raghuvir's Prasad. It needs no mention that the master and all the members of his family became very happy with Srinivas in their midst. The devout Brahmani also was pleased to see Srinivasa's faith and devotion. They talked on various devotional topics till midday. When the offering of food to Raghuvir and other services were finished, and Srinivas sat down to take food. When he finished and was ready, according to the prevalent custom, to clean the place where he had taken his food, the Brahmani forbade him to do so and said, "Well, we'll do it ourselves." At the Brahmani's importunity, Srinivas had no alternative but to leave the matter there and go home. Hriday quarreled with the Brahmani. Now in the village, the hard and fast social rules are there. We should observe that there. Later on, when Holy Mother behaves with all, without consideration of caste, nobody can protest it. That is her influence. In villages dominated by strict observance of social rules and regulations, that means in itself it might be a noble quality, but not to be shown here. That discrimination she forgot. In villages dominated by strict observance of social rules and regulations, great quarrels and party feelings are often roused on account of the breaking of those rules. Petty feelings, party feelings, daladali. Party feelings mean they become divided into different groups, opinion-wise. There is party feeling. Great quarrels and party feelings. Great quarrels and groupism. And such an event was going to happen now also. For the Brahmin woman who came to visit the master raised great objection to the cleaning of the leavings of Srinivas by the Bhairavi, who was a Brahmin woman. Brahmin woman, now sannyasini. The Bhairavi did not admit the propriety of their objection. The quarrel gradually increased. Hriday, the master's nephew, heard of it. Knowing that a great quarrel might arise over the trifling event, Hriday asked the Brahmani not to violate custom. But she paid no heed to his words. That is pride and vanity. Hriday got incensed, and there grew up a noisy quarrel between him and the Bhairavi, Brahmani. Hriday said, "If you do so, we won't allow you to remain inside the house." The Brahmani also was not the sort of person to let the matter drop, and she said, "What harm if you don't? Manasa will go to bed in Shitala's room." Manasa is the goddess of snakes, and Shitala is the other goddess. So she will go to Shitala's room. She compared herself to a roused snake. All other members of the house mediated, and entreating the Brahmani to refrain from the cleaning brought the quarrel to an end. So they did not allow her to do so. The Brahmani recognized her mistake and apprehensive of having given offense, she repented, as asked pardon and left for Kashi. Although she refrained, the Brahmani's pride was severely wounded that day. She thought she was doing rightly. When her anger subsided, she thought calmly over the matter and understood her own mistake. She thought that when she was committing such blunders again and again, so she saw her mistake for the past all the days. She should no longer continue to stay there. Because as the master, she will always feel that pride. When the eyes of an aspirant possessed of keen insight fall somehow or other on his own heart, no impure ideas can conceal themselves. Saradananda Swami's writing is absolutely balanced. The qualities of Brahmani are never trifled with. The defect is clearly shown. That was the case with the Brahmani now. She studied the change of her attitude towards the master and found herself at fault there too and became very repentant. A few days passed when one day she made garland. So slowly that mind is coming to that state. When one day she made garlands of various flowers with her own hands and smeared them with sandal paste, and having beautifully adorned the master as Sri Gauranga, asked his forgiveness with all her heart. So, not mother and child there. Gauranga and his devotee. Afterwards, controlling herself carefully because she did not want to leave the master also, and offering her heart and soul to God, she left Kamarpukur and took the path to Kashi, the abode of the Lord of the universe. Thus did the Brahmani take final leave of the master after having spent 6 long years with him at a stretch. And the master had met her there afterwards. The master returned to Dakshineshwar. So accomplished things came back. The master spent about 7 months in various spiritual moods at Kamarpukur and returned to Dakshineshwar probably at the end of 1867. Monsoon and winter months, almost. When he had regained his health and was almost as strong and healthy as before, almost. An important event happened in his life shortly after his return. We will present it to the reader now. That will be the passing away. That will be the pilgrimage first. Okay. Om Sarvadharma Sthapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyanam Acharyo Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Remember, we are reading a great scripture. We are learning lessons after lessons every day. We are studying in incarnation, not just a biography. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.